Welcome back to the channel, everybody. And today we're looking at the idea that your goals-based setting, your active imagination, is it ego-based or essence-based? Is it soul-based or selfishness-based? Selfless or selfish? And if you're new to the channel or you're here for a while, do subscribe to us, follow us so you don't miss any more of these small pieces of advice on the podcast, and share, and then leave a comment. Leave a comment in the systems below, and then we will get back to you and see what you feel about what the video is. If you need other things, other topics mentioned, we'll try and cover them. But today I want to talk about this idea of ego versus essence in terms of your goal setting, in terms of your ambition, in terms of your success, in terms of your leadership, and then this idea of a manifestation or active imagination. All of that, we look at the root as to whether you're doing it for the sake of your ego or doing it for the sake of your essence. And if your career goals are coming from your ego, there's an outcome. And if your career goals are coming from your essence, it's a different outcome. Because outwardly, it could look like exactly the same thing. Two people can be in the same role, chasing the same promotion, doing the same functions, going to the same interview, the same business, the same title, and the same income. But internally, they're operating from different places. Mindsets are completely different. And eventually, that difference catches up with people. The ego-driven people burn out quickly, and the essence-driven people find strength, growth in times of stress, whereas not difficult in times of stress. And these kind of people become successful and they feel fulfilled. Whereas the guys who are doing it because of ego, they can be as successful as anything and still feel empty inside. So once you become aligned with this idea of essence, you start to finally feel peace with yourself and you start to really find your purpose in life. And today, this is what we're going to look at 3 or 4 positions on how you can tell the difference, especially if you're, again, in recruiting and you're trying to recruit somebody or you're applying for a job, and to give yourself this kind of authenticity to make sure that you appraise yourself and appraise the ego out of you. So you're left only with essence going forward in your career. And it's going to apply to personal and spiritual life as well. So the first thing we look at is the terms insatiability and coherence. Which one is it? The first thing to look at is, does your ambition create this endless desire for wanting more? Or does your imagination or goal setting just always reside in coherence? You understand what they're about and how your life will look like and how this fits in with your life and makes you a better person. If your goals are ego driven, there's usually a feeling that nothing that you do is ever enough. You achieve one thing, and even at the moment of achievement, you feel deflated and you even immediately move to the next thing. Another title, another validation, another shiny material thing, another salary increase. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But the ego is kind of strange, because if you're basing your whole professional career on what your ego wants, then eventually you're just going to arrive somewhere that you think, this is going to make me complete. But instead, you feel temporary satisfaction followed by another craving and another craving. That's usually your ego doing that. Cheap thrills, status chasing, recognition chasing. And sometimes people spend decades there. I've worked with people and it takes a long time for them to unlock them. I've worked with colleagues alongside me. And this is just to say that ego can affect everyone, including myself. But when you look at other people, they cannot just appreciate the moment. They cannot sit and just be appreciative of where they are. They're always chasing. And the work just becomes a means to chase another goal, just to satisfy an ego, to have a little shiny title, to have a little another trinket, another piece of materialism. But when you have essence-based goals, it feels different. It begins to create a coherence in your life, clarity. It's an internal alignment. That way, your conscious mind here, and then your values, which is here, and that goal that you have, all begin to agree with each other. So Simon Sinek says in his famous work, you start with why, and this why is actually unpicking. Rather than what you do and how you do it, the why starts to unpick, actually, are you doing this for the right reasons, or are you just doing this again just for ego-based chasing? So when you do have clarity and you do have this essence-based goal setting, you stop feeling this fragmentation or this need to keep chasing the next thing. Everything seems to come towards you. This is the law of attraction. Once you start to be essence-based, everything starts to move towards you as opposed to you chasing everything else. In the Islamic tradition, we say if you chase this world, it will keep running away from you. But if you don't, then it will come towards you. If you stop chasing, like your shadow, if the sun is behind you and you start chasing your shadow, you'll never catch it. Similarly, if you turn around and run away from your shadow, it will never catch you, but it will always follow you. The second idea we have, the second concept is your status versus your soul. So this is another way to look at it. Are you trying to improve your status or are you trying to improve your soul? And this is what we talk about again, this idea of why, or they call it the golden circle inside the golden circle, what Sinek says. Why do you actually want the thing that you want? You start to appraise yourself. In a lot of the coaching that I do, when you ask this question, you can ask many questions. As soon as you get into the why of the question, you start to see the colleague or the coachee or the mentee start to really slow down in how they answer questions. They find difficult to find the right words because this is not natural. The material world, the capitalist driven society, just wants you to set a goal and reach it once you get that goal. And that's how consumerism and capitalism and economic growth and all of that happen. But at what cost? It's the cost is your status goes up and your soul goes down, or your soul goes up and your status goes down. And then, but if you find your why, if you find your why, both can happen at the same time. And that's where we have to be careful because most people lie to themselves. We try to trick ourselves. Ego driven goals are often heavily attached to titles and status, recognition, image, look, achievements, money, cars, houses, clothing. And again, none of those things, you can't say that they're evil or they're bad. But if that's the goal, then that is what's bad. If they're just along the journey and incidental, that's okay. I've coached many people who are highly respected externally, while internally, and then when they come to me, they're completely disconnected from what would make them happy. Productive, I'll give them a task, get it done, but not fulfilled. Even when they fulfill really good tasks, they could be saving lives, saving people, or transforming society, but they don't feel fulfilled. Successful, absolutely, but spiritually exhausted. And eventually that catches up with you by way of the body keeps score. So Bessel talks about the body always keeps score. So your nervous system starts to present as physical symptoms. But when you move towards essence-based goals, you really iron out what your ego, you actually get your ego under control, and then you set essence-based goals. They come from somewhere much deeper. Sometimes you can call it your soul, your core, your base desires, maybe, but it's a part of you that is innately you, not the next shiny thing that you happen on the billboard, not what people around you in your peer groups are saying that they want, and then suddenly you want that. No, this is what you are about. Before social comparison, really, is what I'm saying. Before you started to impress the world, usually the essence-based goals are less about proving yourself, but more about becoming yourself. You don't need to prove yourself to anybody. Once you become comfortable in your own skin, your ego just really, really disappears like salt in water. It just disappears and vanishes. It's there, but it has no real effect. And that's the difference. So we move on again and we talk about how do you get there? And it really is an everyday. This third thing is it's very simple, but very complex as well. Is observe your internal state. Only you can do that. You can come to my coaching session. You can work with great people, but we can't see inside you. Some of us have got some intuition as to know what's what. And again, when you work in human resources and recruitment and stuff, you can pick those people who are ego driven from those who are essence driven. It's not an exact science, but with experience, we understand it. But you as an individual, if you're listening to this is the simplicity of what I say, but I can say to you also the complexity. You need to observe your internal state, and the complexity is honestly. So people come to my sessions and I say honestly, then appraise yourself. So tell me what are the things that caused X to probably make you work better? What are the things that cause you to work less well? And then when we look at these micro goals, and you can quickly see if they're essence based or ego based. One of the signs your ego is what's causing your this pursuit is that strange feeling where the successful look on the outside is not represented by what is on the inside. So those nearest and dearest to you, and the really people who are really close to you, and the things that you really love, those core kind of memories, those things that made you as a child or you as a teenager who was free of responsibility happy, you can't find pleasure in them anymore. You've become the role, you become the profession, you become the status, and then you become the expectation. None of that is you then. That's the ego. And then this authentic version of yourself, it starts to disappear under the illusion of high performance people. But when someone is moving towards something connected to their essence, active imagination start to feel different. This imagination of what's life going to be like in 10 years' time. If you're doing it from that deeper place where you're going, the whole journey feels much more healthier. It doesn't feel fancy. I know people who've worked in high level banking sector and it's not made them happy. Lots and lots of money, and then lots and lots of coping strategies, should we call it, to manage the voids inside. And then, for example, one person transitioned from working in a bank, gave that up, moved into healthcare, and then worked low banding all the way up and became a leader because he still had the same skills. Sorry, she still had the same skills, but now she had purpose connected to her soul. And now she was able to transfer the skills that she had from her previous career. And then with this new into this clinical model that she'd learned, she became a very, very fantastic leader. And that's where the fantasy of your ego ends. Emotionally, it feels real. Your emotions start to connect with your brain, and your emotion actually aligns. And then these goals that you set, they're all aligned together. And then the future self starts to feel like a memory waiting to happen. I often do this with people, and I think this really feels crazy. But when we get into it, this is a memory already created when it's linked to your soul. You feel calm, you feel true, you don't, it's not like wishful thinking when we do the exercise in the present or past tense, but it doesn't feel like a delusion. It doesn't feel like we're pretending. It feels like alignment. So how do you do this? And when do you do this is next. And that's what we call the point of disgust. Jim Rohn talks about this a lot in his self-development work. So you can go back and look at some of his historical works. Fantastic. He calls it the point of disgust, the point that broke the camel's back. So sometimes you don't understand what this, but it's the point where you can't live the way you just give up. It's I can't live like this anymore. And that's the point of disgust. And I've seen this many times in coaching. People can come to me burnt out, exhausted, disconnected, so on a surface level, super successful, but eternally lost. And yes, sometimes they come for spiritual guidance, but we kind of cut away from that because even if you teach spirituality and prayer and this, if the inside is rotten, none of that matters. The prayer becomes for the ego. The charity becomes for ego. It's still the same. You need to treat this idea that my goal setting is for my essence and not my ego. I can't continue to live like this. I can't continue performing this version of myself that no longer feels true. I don't like it. That moment is horrible, but it's really powerful. It's that turning point. It's the key that turns. It's the key that unlocks the door, and you open the door, and then you move into someone else. Because disgust can become this doorway to transformation. If you feel disgust from yourself and then you go and try and self-medicate it away or make it go away or prescribe medicine or prescribe therapy just to mask it, you're not dealing with the problem. Understand if you've reached the point of disgust with your ego-driven life, your ego-driven professional life, personal life, spiritual life, it's time to change. Sometimes the problem that the identity underneath that career is no longer aligned. So again, it's just different ways of saying the same thing. I'm trying to emphasize. Once people get control of the ego and reconnect with the essence, not only will you find alignment, but the speed at which you talked about the example of the person who transferred careers from $100,000 a year career to a nursing career, which is $20,000-$30,000 a year initially, went to that, and the speed that they accelerated was phenomenal. And then when you see them, they're in their element. because their soul, their professional standing, and their life experiences all align together. So to wrap up, and this is the test for you, or the litmus test, will the paper go blue or red or purple or whatever it is? Ask yourself this question. If I achieve this, what will I feel? So when you do the active imagination, do you feel your ego boost? Do you see material stuff? Do you see people walking around and praising you? Or do you see yourself feeling satisfied and aligned, peace? Do you feel warm? Do you feel happy inside? This is what the active imagination is about. It's trying to find out, how do I feel? Because if it's still ego driven, when you get there, you'll just be chasing the next thing. Ego seeks to fill voids. It creates voids and seeks to fill them. Essence seeks to express your truth. Ego will say to you, maybe then I'll have enough. But your essence and your soul is saying, and this is who I am becoming. So one of the exercises I do is to ask people to say when they're coming in, their junior people come see me. So I get them to write down, I am becoming a leader who, and then they fill in the sentence. We don't ask questions like, what is it you need to become enough? Because if you do that, you just arouse the ego. But if you ask the question, that this is truly who I'm becoming, once you've written it down, and I know I'm becoming this, your goals become aligned with your essence and away from your ego. And that's where transformation happens. The point of disgust, the point of transformation, this mind becomes clearer, your behavior becomes really intentional, your decision making becomes really sharp, and then your nervous system settles. There's no fight between your eat, your rest and digest, and your fight and flight. It's all aligned. And strangely, what we say success comes after and faster after this happens. Not because of magic. Pasteur said it again. He said serendipity comes to the prepared mind, because now your mind's prepared. You will see chance, luck, opportunity come towards you, because internally you're no longer fighting against something. You're aligned inside and not fighting against yourself. You're not divided against yourself. So in closing, I just want to make sure that you understand that if you listen to this and go away and walk and you've managed to make it to the end, thank you for listening. And I want you to sit with that just for some time and ask yourself, are your goals coming from fear, comparison, status, validation? Are they coming from fast cars, clothing, housing, more money, more travel, more status, more job titles, whatever it is? Those are two sides of the ego. One that's fighting, one that's trying to chase praise. Or are they coming from an alignment? Because your future version of yourself that you keep imagining may actually be trying to guide you back towards yourself. So when you make this active imagination of the future, it's trying to guide you. And you've just got to make sure you listen to him or her 10 years in the future. So take care, everybody. Like, share, follow, and subscribe to the channel if you can. And remember, most people never become the people they imagined because they've never trained this mind to believe that future version is real. And also, we have to purify the mind away from the ego and towards the essence. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the next video.